My granddad used to joke that giving a busybody neighbor a clipboard was like unleashing a wild beast. But none of us expected that beast to actually climb over our backyard fence in the middle of the night, wearing what looked like high-tech goggles, shining a flashlight around, and muttering about unauthorized garden patches. I was sitting in the kitchen, munching on some leftover cold sandwiches, when I caught sight of this shadow scaling our 8-foot fence like some kind of clumsy ninja. It wasn't a thief, it was Doris Crane, head of the neighborhood watch committee, sneaking around like she was in a low-budget spy flick. The next morning, Grandpa Edgar rewired the whole fence and grumbled, "If they want to play dirty, we'll give them a little electric reminder." That's the thing about living on Elmshade Drive. Everything has to be perfect. Lawns trimmed to military precision. Every window shutter painted the exact same shade of teal, and the driveways washed so often you could eat off them. And if you didn't keep up, the HOA would slip a warning on your doorstep, like it was a death threat. I thought this was normal, until Grandpa Edgar moved in with us after Grandma passed last year. He was like a storm in a glass neighborhood. In his first month, he racked up violations for all sorts of things. Installing a wind turbine sculpture, painting a shed a forbidden color, and my favorite, yelling bureaucratic tyrant at Doris during a meeting while storming out with a bag of cookies. It wasn't shocking when Grandpa finally lost it. But what really pushed him was the night he caught Doris on camera sneaking into her yard. We'd been fined for leaving a hose out that wasn't even ours. It belonged to our neighbor, Mr. Patel, with his initials clearly on the nozzle. The footage showed Doris hopping the fence, measuring our flower pots with a ruler and rifling through our recycling bin like she was hunting for spy secrets in soda cans. Grandpa watched the videos over and over without saying a word. Then he muttered, "This isn't a game. They're crossing the line," and disappeared into the garage. Over the next 2 days, fueled by boredom and brilliance, he rewired the fence with copper wire, a car battery, extension cords, and more duct tape than I thought possible. The fence wasn't lethal, just enough to give a serious shock, something to make a nosy Parker think twice. Mom said he was crazy. Dad tried to talk him down. Me? I filmed the entire project for my vlog. Grandpa even made a sign that read, "Trespassers will get shocked." Literally. The first night? Nothing. The second night? We heard a scream, high-pitched, ridiculous, and loud enough to set every dog in the neighborhood barking. We rushed outside to find Doris lying on the ground, twitching, her wig askew, and smelling like burnt nylon. She threatened to sue right then and there before waddling away, grumbling about being attacked by an old man with a vengeance. By morning, the whole neighborhood was buzzing. The HOA sent us a formal complaint accusing Grandpa of reckless behavior and dangerous use of hazardous force. Grandpa framed the letter and hung it above the fireplace. Mom was furious. Dad disappeared into his office. I gained subscribers like crazy. Meanwhile, Doris started showing up at neighbors' doors, warning them about weaponized seniors. But some neighbors began rooting for Grandpa. Mr. Patel brought over fruit. Mrs. Morales baked pies. People started asking Grandpa for tips on defensive landscaping. One guy even offered him money to rig his mailbox to spray water at unwanted visitors, which Grandpa politely declined after accepting the pie. The HOA slapped us with a $500 fine and threatened a lawsuit. That's when Sanjay Kumar, a lawyer down the street who was notorious for ignoring HOA rules himself, showed up at our door. "I've been waiting for someone to fight back," he said, stepping over a hose Doris had probably labeled contraband. "I'll represent you, pro bono." Suddenly, this wasn't just about an electrified fence. It was about spying, petty rules, and secret garden patrols. Doris had become the symbol of everything wrong with Elmshade Drive, and Grandpa was the rebellious hero standing up to it all. But 2 nights after Doris' shocking encounter, the wires on the fence were cut. Not just snipped, yanked out and buried under mulch. Grandpa found the wreckage in the morning, silent and grim. "This isn't nosiness anymore," he said quietly. "It's organized sabotage." Soon after, Doris claimed she'd been electrocuted by a hostile security system designed to target her personally, like Grandpa had built a fence just to zap her. She told anyone who'd listen that she was on a routine mission inspecting shrubbery, flashlight and fence scaling included. The HOA blasted an emergency bulletin accusing us of weaponizing our home. News vans started showing up. One reporter even called Grandpa Shockwave, which made him grin like a kid. Mom wasn't amused. Dad just stared at his coffee. Grandpa, though, he was already sketching something new in the garage. One morning, an anonymous typed note appeared in our mailbox. It said, "Cease all unauthorized modifications. HOA surveillance program Phase 2 is active." Grandpa laughed, pinned it to the garage wall, and wrote battle plans above it. The neighborhood was on edge. Flamingos popped up on lawns. Someone put a giant inflatable dragon on their roof. Mr. Patel showed off his bonsai tree, now dubbed Doris. But peace didn't last. Grandpa discovered tiny microphones hidden in birdhouses scattered around the street. He cracked one open and found a tiny recorder. It was spying on us. Neighbors came forward with their own recordings and stories of surveillance. We held a community meeting, no HOA permission needed. Over 30 neighbors gathered, popcorn in hand. Pastor Reynolds brought his portable pulpit. Grandpa, me, and my friend Alex live-streamed the trial of Elmshade Drive. Sanjay presented damning evidence. Footage of Doris sneaking around, audio clips, leaked emails discussing behavioral corrections for residents. People shared stories of ridiculous fines for everything from tank tops and garages to Buddha statues that didn't fit the vibe. Even Mr. Gomez's parrot started repeating phrases like, "Don't talk on the porch." They're listening in a dead-on impression of Doris. Doris didn't show, but her deputy, a clipboard-clutching man named Carl, showed up and tried to bluff his way out. The meeting was a blow to the HOA's control. Then, at the next official HOA meeting, Leonard Brinkley, a quiet man who rarely spoke, stood and declared, "I dissolve this HOA, effective immediately." The room gasped. Doris protested, but Leonard said, "This HOA was never about community. It was about control and spying. And it ends now." Cheers erupted. People hugged, and even Grandpa looked stunned. "Well, that's not how I expected it to end," he whispered. "But we better keep that sprinkler glitter trap, just in case." Life on Elmshade Drive changed. Flamingos multiplied. The Ramirezes put up a giant inflatable duck. Mr. Patel started bonsai workshops. The mailboxes stayed crooked. The parrot Paco became a local celebrity. Grandpa rewired the fence to play classic rock instead of shocks. Sweet Home Alabama, whenever the dog brushed against the gate. One afternoon, I asked Grandpa if he was happy. He smiled and said, "I'm not happy. I'm satisfied." Then he went back to tinkering in the garage. That night, while staring at the stars, I heard a faint buzz. A tiny red light blinked high above, the neighborhood drone watching. I looked up, and it zipped away into the darkness. Inside, Grandpa was already sketching again. When I asked what it was, he smiled and said, "Anti-drone." Elmshade Drive would never be normal again, and honestly, we wouldn't want it any other way.